Hey everyone, Dockwell here, and welcome to another one of my Dota 2 hero guides. Today we're going to be taking a look at Monkey King. So Monkey King is one of the most popular, hotly contested heroes in the DPC right now, and that's because he can be flexed to either the carry or the 4 position. You can pick him early in drafts, and he can kind of go either way. He's even played mid in the past, just not super popular as a mid in this patch. So we're going to be focusing on Monkey King carry for this guide. I think that's largely because even if you do play Monkey King as a 4 position, you're going to be a little bit more ultimate focused. You know, you're centered around your ultimate, but you're still kind of transitioning into a 4th core in the game, buying items that help your ultimate scale up and to help you isolate supports and right-click heroes, these kinds of things, even from the 4 position. So that's why we're going to focus on the carry version of Monkey King, because he does the same thing. It's just that he buys more items like Battle Fury, other things to farm a little bit more, because obviously he's the 1 position. He's the #1 farm priority. So how do we think about Monkey King as a carry? Well, I think there's 2 main ways you can think about this hero. The first way to think about this hero is he really is ultimate focused. Now, you don't need your ultimate to win fights. Your ultimate isn't the only way that you really impact the game, but your ultimate is so powerful. I think everybody knows that if you're playing against a Monkey King and he casts his ultimate, you need to run. You do not take a fight in Monkey King ultimate. It's just not something you want to do unless you have like 20, 30, 40k gold, you have Aegis, you just have all this advantage. You don't want to take a fight in there. Maybe you could, but it would just be better to back off, reset, and just wait for it to expire and then go back in. So he can basically use his ultimate to just claim an area of the map. If a fight is occurring on a certain area of the map, like initiation happens, and you can cast your ultimate and it's hard for the enemy to get away, that's when Monkey King is really good. So he's not super good against like Storm Spirit, Ember Spirit, a lot of the heroes that have a lot of mobility that can just kind of disengage from his ultimate, because that can make it so that, you know, you just waste your ultimate, you cast it, the team disengages, they run away, these kinds of things. So you want a lot of lockdown, you want heroes that are not mobile on the enemy team, all this kind of stuff. But he doesn't necessarily rely on his ultimate to be the only thing that impacts the game. He also wants to kind of man up on people, fight people 1v1, because his passive is all about doing more damage and clicking the same person over and over again to just get a ton of damage. So because of that, you don't really want to play against other heroes that you have a hard time kind of manning up against. Because if you have a hard time, you know, just fighting them one-on-one, well then your ultimate is really the thing that allows you to, you know, take better fights. But if you're just completely reliant on your ultimate, it doesn't feel so good. So you want to have him or pick him in games where he can just fight even without his ultimate. It's almost like he's saving his ultimate for a high ground push, for Roshan, for something else. You don't necessarily have to have it to win the fights. This hero is also pretty mobile. You can chase people down really easily. You can split push pretty well. He has a unique mechanic, obviously, where he stands in trees, and I'll show you that in a bit. So he is a very unique and interesting and fun hero, but he also isn't like, he is a mobile hero, but he isn't like super mobile in the sense that he's like a spirit hero or something. He can chase people down, but once he commits into a fight, he doesn't really back off that much. He's not like an anti-mage where he gets in and out, or a Slark where he gets in and out. He kind of wants to go in, commit on a guy, kill him, isolate people, and kill them, and then cast ultimates for big AoE team fights. So that's how we can think about Monkey King in general. Now let's take a look at his abilities and see how they work. Now that we understand Monkey in general, we can take a look at his abilities and see how he's able to be that good right-click carry like I talked about, that has some mobility, has some unique aspects, and is ultimate focused as well. So first we're actually going to take a look at Jingu Mastery. This would typically be your E skill, but he has actually a W and an E ability that are kind of mixed together. So this could be like D or whatever else it is. But basically this is his passive ability that allows him to be, you know, a right-click carry. This is kind of the thing that makes him able to right-click and do more damage. So what this does is when you click an enemy, you can see every time you click the enemy, they get a stack above their head, and then once they hit 4, you get a bunch of stacks here, 4 stacks of Jingu Mastery, and this allows you to do more damage for your right clicks and also do some lifesteal as well. So you can see now that I'm going to click Axe with these 4 hits, now he takes a lot more damage than my normal right click. You can see it's a significant amount more, especially once you max it out. So you can see that's how he obviously wants to focus on one hero. He wants to isolate them, click them a bunch of times, get his stacks up, all of these kinds of things. Just a general all-around good, you know, man fight ability, if you want to call it that. So that's Jingu Mastery. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. It does pierce spell immunity as well, so it goes through BKB. Just keep that in mind. The damage and the stacks as well. But the reason why I'm looking at this first is because this actually synergizes with a couple other abilities that he has as well. So the other ability, that's the normal ability, that it stacks with his Boundless Strike, and then it stacks with his ultimate as well. It kind of synergizes with these two abilities. So next we're going to look at Boundless Strike. So Boundless Strike is kind of an AoE stun ability that you can send out in a direction. So he basically stuns out, kind of like Earthshaker Fissure, and it does damage in an AoE and stuns in an AoE there. So you can see I'll hit Axe with it there, and it does some damage. He's stunned a little bit, but he also gets a stack of Jingo Mastery above his head when he's hit with this Boundless Strike, and that's because this also acts as a right click. It technically, counts as a right click, and it does critical damage actually. So it's a way for him to just do increased right click damage. So you can see how that will stack and kind of synergize with Jingo Mastery, because if you get 4 stacks here, you can see I get the 4th one, and now I have this lifesteal, I have this extra damage. I can use Boundless Strike, and that does a significant amount of damage, especially to supports and squishy heroes in general. You can kill them honestly with one of these Boundless Strikes if you already have Jingo Mastery and then a few other right clicks. You can just absolutely destroy people. The other thing that you can do is, once I get through all of these 3 stacks, is in the laning stage or other times, let's say you're clicking a hero, you click them 3 times, and you don't really want to keep chasing them because they run under tower, or they run away from you. You don't have the range to click them anymore. What you can do is you can actually use Boundless Strike. Oops, I accidentally used it. I did it 4 times, my bad. We'll get up to 3 here. So I'll click the axe 3 times. There we go. Because it counts as a right click, this Boundless Strike, you can use it to actually then proc Jingo Mastery and get those stacks for yourself to do more damage to creeps, to last hit, to get lifesteal in the lane, these kinds of things. So that's another way you want to do it occasionally as well. But the main way you want to do it is you probably want to get Jingo Mastery first and then use this, just because of the added physical damage that you can output with the increased damage here plus the critical strike. So that's how to use Boundless Strike, and that's how to use it in combination with Jingo Mastery. And next we're going to take a look at Tree Dance. So Tree Dance is probably one of the most interesting spells in Dota, and it's what makes this hero super, super unique. So we'll actually have him go over here. So you can click this and then click on a tree, and you just jump up on that tree. You get vision in an AoE. It's flying vision, really, really good for scouting. You can also jump to other trees after a few seconds. You can see every time you jump to a tree, it has a small cooldown. And then you can jump to a tree in the AoE there. So it increases your mobility. It allows you to, get in and out of fights, these kinds of things, escape from people, hide from people, all this kind of stuff, split push, etc. Now keep in mind, if the axe is standing here and you jump over the axe's head, the axe can see you. And that is important because the axe actually can cut this tree, and then you're stunned for a good duration. You can see how long that stun is, which is pretty bad. If that happens in a team fight, if that happens, even when people are trying to pick you off or you're trying to run away from people, that's really, really bad. So heroes like Storm Spirit, like Mars with his Arena, any hero that can destroy trees can be very, very good against Monkey King, because they can chase him down. If they destroy the trees he's on, he's stunned forever. And if they have any follow-up, they can kill him. They might even be able to kill him full to 0 by themselves. So keep that in mind. Now, when you are jumping on a tree like this, you can see this ability, this E ability, like I talked about before, Primal Spring, becomes available. It's not really available at all unless you're on a tree. And what this does is you can cast it in an AoE. It has a pretty decent cast range. And what it does is, after a short channel time, you jump off the tree, you do damage, and you slow anything in that AoE. So this is good for 2 things. It's good for chasing people down in fights, for getting pickoffs, these kinds of things. It's also really, really good for farming, because obviously you do a bunch of damage in the AoE there. But keep in mind, this is kind of like a lot of other channeled abilities, where if you jump on here and then you use your Primal Spring, but you end it immediately by pressing Primal Spring again, it slows, it does damage, but it doesn't really do that much. It always, it scales with the amount of time you're channeling it. So this ability is a little bit of a skill shot here, because let's say Axe is running here. Actually, let's get on a tree first. Oh wait, I can't see him now. Let's get on a tree first. Let's say Axe is running here. Well, I want to cast Primal Spring, but then I want to end it at the right time so that I can obviously maximize the damage in the slow, but that I can get right on top of him and that it does hit him. I don't miss the ability, these kinds of things. So like I said, it is a little bit of a skill shot in that way. Yeah. So that's Tree Dance, and that's Primal Spring. Pretty straightforward, but you obviously have to get used to it, get used to how often you can jump, get used to the time it takes, the distance, all these different kinds of things. It's a little bit of a skill shot. The other thing to keep in mind is that when you jump on a tree, let's say you can instantly jump on a tree, and then you want to use Primal Spring, you can just use it pretty far and then press it again to jump immediately. It's how you can kind of get in and out. You can jump over cliffs, these kinds of things, escape, and run away from fights or run away from people that are trying to track you down. Keep that in mind. The other thing you can do is, if you're jumping on a tree, you can use it in its full duration, and then you can actually immediately use the Tree Dance again to get back into a tree. Now, obviously, we have free spells on here, so I'll turn this off to show you a little bit better. You can jump, and then you can jump right back onto a tree. Now, you can't use Primal Spring again. You basically have to right-click off of the tree to get off of it, and then you kind of jump down right there, and then you can start running. That's the way to get off the tree without using Primal Spring, but that is a method that you can use as well. So that's Primal Spring. That's how to use that in all of its different facets. And now we're going to take a look at Mischief here. This is an ability that's kind of unique to this hero, and to most heroes don't really have an ability like this. You don't put any levels in it. You get it for free from the beginning of the game, and this is Mischief, or Mischief, however you want to say it, and you basically press it, and you turn into a bunch of different things. You can turn into items like tangos. Let's put free spells back on here. You can turn into TP scrolls. You can turn into bananas randomly if you're near a tree. You can turn into, well, Roche. Sometimes you can turn into Roche if you're near that, but you can turn into trees. I don't know why it keeps turning into Roche. Maybe because it's near that big tree. Let's go over here. Yeah, I think it might be when you're near that, you can turn into Roche. But yeah, you turn into the tree here when you're near trees. Turn into Roche when you're near them. You turn into couriers when you're near your courier. These kinds of things. It could just be a little bit of a way to confuse people. It also is a way you can hide in the trees if you just make yourself a tree. But if you are an item and an enemy hits you, you just immediately pop out, become normal, these kinds of things. So it's not the best way to hide, but it is possible. The other main thing that you can use this for is it actually has a small duration of invulnerability. So you can use this to time it right to dodge things like Laguna Blade from Lina or Lion Finger of Death. Any kind of huge burst damage that comes in all at once. If you time this Mischief right, you can really get good at the hero and make sure that you survive when you otherwise shouldn't from that burst damage. The other thing is if you use the Ag's Shard, it upgrades this to have a lower cooldown, and the invulnerable duration is a little bit longer, half a second. That means you don't have to be as good at the timing for dodging things, these kinds of things. So it is important in that way. It does have a little bit of a skill aspect to it. So that's Mischief. Those are all of his normal abilities. Now we're going to take a look at his ultimate, and this is where this hero thrives. It's what makes this hero so powerful. So the ultimate is Wukong's Command, and what happens is you can kind of click it and cast it in an AoE. So if I cast it right on top of myself, it basically takes up all that AoE you see there in the blue, but you can also cast it in kind of a direction here. So the reason why this is important is because if you're on a tree and the team fight's happening out here, you can kind of cast it in this direction, and you'll see what happens when I cast it. So let's just cast it right now. All these monkeys kind of come out in this AoE, so you can see how I would be able to direct it. And then all these monkeys just basically hit people whenever they're in the AoE, and I can hit them as well. And you can see how much damage this is doing. So this is pretty obvious why, you know, nobody wants to fight in this monkey AoE. It's so good. This is obviously why you don't really like it when the enemies can just run out of your ultimate, because it's really bad because your ultimate is so good. So you don't want to be able to cast this and then everybody just runs away. You want more stuns on your team. You don't want to have just like only Boundless Strike as your only stun. You want to be able to initiate, to lock people down, all this kind of stuff. Keep them in that AoE. And it's really good for securing Roche, securing racks, defending racks, these kinds of things. The other thing to mention about this is that if you leave the AoE of that ultimate, it immediately ends. So it's one of those things that's why you don't want people to run away, because you don't want to have to chase them down while it's active, because it really feels bad. You know, you cast it, they immediately run away. That can just feel really bad, or they immediately zip out because it's a Storm Spirit, something like that. Just doesn't feel good. The last thing I will say is that this ultimate and these monkeys do work with some items, like Desolator. So if you give them Desolator, they will do a lot more damage. This is really good. This is one of the reasons why Monkey is so good. It also works with Diffusal, I believe. Actually, no, I don't think it does. So it doesn't work with Diffusal. Let me see. Maybe the Ags does. I was just going to talk about the Ags. Maybe it doesn't as well. But Ags basically spawns some of these little monkeys at intervals, and then they can help you farm. They can help you do more damage, these kinds of things. So if the Axe runs over here. Okay, yeah, so these monkeys will use Diffusal, it just depends. But basically what happened is when this hero was first released, you could use like Basher and all this other kind of crazy stuff with the ultimate. It was just way too powerful, so they removed some of those things. But your monkeys do more damage kind of based on you and stuff like that too, so it does scale with you as well. They have a certain attack speed, these kinds of things. But the other main thing I didn't mention about this is this gives you bonus armor too. So being in the AoE here of this monkey ultimate just makes you kind of invulnerable. Like they cannot kill you with right clicks. You can man up on pretty much any hero in the game when you're in your ultimate because you have this bonus armor. It's absolutely ridiculous what this armor does to you, because obviously 24 armor, being already an agility hero that buys normal carry items, you're going to be almost impossible to kill in that AoE, and you're going to be dishing out so much damage, nobody wants to fight in it. So that's all of his abilities. Like I said, there's the Wukong's Command here, upgrade with the Ags. It just allows you to spawn these soldiers randomly, helps with farming, helps with doing more damage, these kinds of things. It's kind of an alternative to Battle Fury at times, because you will buy Battle Fury as a carry on this hero. BKB is also super important because you want to be able to, you know, fight through people, you know, isolate people, get Jingo Mastery stacks, hit people 4 times in a row. So BKB is a super important item as well. So that is Monkey King. Those are all of his abilities. Kind of a unique and interesting hero. One of the newer heroes in Dota, so very unique and has a lot of different aspects to him. So very complicated in that way. So now that we understand Monkey and know his abilities, let's jump into a game and see how he's played. So now we're jumping into a replay here of Crit playing Monkey King, and I just wanted to say, level 1, you're pretty much always going to be going Boundless Strike first, and that's largely because there are very few matchups that Jingu Mastery is really good level 1. I mean, the first level in it is really not that great anyway. The extra damage and lifesteal you're getting is really not great. So you're going to want to take Boundless Strike first pretty much every time to secure range creeps. So you can see he does that there. He gets the stun off on the Death Prophet. Death Prophet's also not a hero where you're going to get super aggressive on this hero. It's one of the best offlaners. It's a ranged hero, has a lot of nuke damage. So level 1 Jingu Mastery, not great. So anyway, he just plays the lane rather passively for level 1, trying to secure level 2. Then once he gets level 2, you can see as soon as he gets it, he starts to get aggressive on the enemy because they are level 1 still. He has a stun from his support that he can use to get the first blood. They go in on the Earth Spirit here because it doesn't have roll, and they can get the first blood. And this is the constant push and pull, the weird dance that you're doing with Monkey King in the laning state constantly. You obviously want to get your last hits, you want to get your farm, but the way you secure your farm is by kind of threatening the enemy constantly to right-click them a bunch. But because you have to right-click a single hero like 4 times, it can be this weird game of cat and mouse where you can see right here, he's taking tons of harass from the enemy, he's low HP, and he goes in on the Death Prophet, he only has 2 stacks, he's not really able to get his full stacks off, and then he has to run away, and it's just a horrible situation for him, so he dies. And that's kind of what you're constantly playing with Monkey King. He either feels really, really strong, you're getting super aggressive, you can punish the enemy for being out of position, or they're chasing you down because they have better movement speed, you can't get all your stacks off on one hero, it can feel really bad. But then as soon as he comes back, you can see he can get in range of being able to click the Death Prophet constantly. He gets the slows and the stun from his support, so he's able to chase down the Death Prophet. But if the Death Prophet's kind of keeping your distance, not getting out of position, you can see the Death Prophet can run down the Monkey King too. So it's this, like I said, it's this weird push and pull. It's a cat and mouse game, whether you can get your stacks off or not. Obviously, try to play, passive for your farm, but you also need to learn the matchups and the times to get aggressive on this hero. That's the key to laning with this hero, because if you learn those times and you get good with the hero in general, you can be super aggressive and honestly stomp lanes. It's just a matter of understanding those timings, understanding when the enemies are out of position. Now, I jumped ahead a little bit here, and they actually just got a kill on the Death Prophet. He's been very, very good at getting aggressive. We kind of saw that in the last clip as well, the end of the last clip, how they got a double kill there. And then what happens is he hits 6. He sees that the enemy Terrorblade is not 6 yet, and he sees that the enemy is getting a little bit aggressive out of position. The Sand King has 6 and has his ultimate, and he gets aggressive. He TPs to the bottom lane and ends up getting a couple kills here. And this is really something you want to make sure that you're doing with Monkey King. This hero is very effective at ganking, very effective at getting involved early. He is maxing his tree dance here, and that's largely because this is what helps you farm before you get a farming item like Battle Fury or Maelstrom. He's going to go Maelstrom this game, probably to clear through illusions and things like that. It also works with his ultimate and things, but to clear through like Terrorblade illusions, that kind of stuff. But basically, you can still get involved, even with only like a couple points in Jingu, even with 1 point in Boundless Strike, it's still a decent crit, it's still a stun, you still do good damage, you have a decent slow. It's something that you want to consider with this hero, that you're not like a Medusa, Luna, you're not like some hero that just sits back, farms in the jungle, clears ancient stacks or something like that. That's not what this hero does. This hero can get involved, you can scout for your team, you can play pretty aggressively, especially early on if you're having a good lane. You can see he's top net worth right now. So this is what you want to be doing in this game, with Monkey King, or in the game in general. Hopefully you have a decent enough lane, you can kind of master the laning stage, and that's why it's so important to understand that push-pull, and then you can get super aggressive and help your team fight, because you do tons of damage, scout, and all those kinds of things like I talked about. So if you watch this replay and you watch the next 10 minutes, he's generally farming. Like you can see he's pushing out waves, he's farming the jungle, he's doing normal carry things, but anytime he looks to get aggressive, or anytime his team looks to get aggressive, he can, help them, join them, these kinds of things. He does have a Sand King with a stun, all that kind of stuff. But he's not just looking to be passive, he's looking to be super aggressive. I just wanted to kind of show you how he did that early on in the game. So I jumped ahead a couple minutes, and there's actually 3 things in this sequence that I want to show you. He's glitched out a little bit here because it says he's on a tree, but he wasn't. Now he is. So you can see that he sees the illusions here of Earth Spirit on the minimap. I want you to focus on the minimap. He sees absolutely nobody but Terrorblade top. So the obvious place that they would be is probably running at him down here. And this is something that Monkey King can do that a lot of other carries can't, is he can kind of hang out near the farm that he wants to take, but in such a way that unless they have like a high ground ward on him or vision on him, they're not really going to see him, because unless he jumps out of the tree like over somebody's head, they can't see him. So this is kind of one of those things that Monkey King is really good at, as opposed to other carries, is kind of hanging out in a location, playing relatively safe off the map until he sees, you know, heroes, and then he knows that he can be safe. So then he finally sees heroes, he knows where they are generally, then he kind of retreats back and wants to farm through the jungle to kind of meet up with his team eventually. He's going to go back to the triangle to make sure he doesn't get ganked. So we'll speed it up a little bit here. After he took just a little bit of time to kind of sit there and just see, you know, what's happening on the map. So now he makes his way to his team because he thinks a fight's going to happen up here, and it generally is. And then this thing is what I wanted to show you here. This is actually one of the most important parts of the clip, is how to use the ultimate. So he jumps in, uses his ultimate while on a tree, which forces him to come off the tree. So I didn't mention that in the abilities section. But once you cast your ultimate when you're on a tree, you jump off of it, kind of climb off of it. And then he uses his Boundless Strike immediately on the Death Prophet, isolates her, kills her full to 0. This is exactly what you want to be doing early on in the game, especially when you don't have a ton of items. With your ultimate, it's the best way to use your ultimate. Be on a tree, surprise the enemy, kind of, you know, use that channel time for the ultimate to make it so that they can't just run away while you're channeling it. And then you just hop down from the tree, you immediately jump on them, you pounce on them, you use your stun, you kill them full to 0. You can isolate and kill almost any hero in that way. So that's the perfect example of how to use your ultimate, especially early on in team fights, and to just, you know, pick people off while they're near trees. Now he does get gone on. This fight is happening forever. He gets gone on. His team turns it around with the Dawnbreaker here. He ends up getting a sick Boundless Strike crit there on the Death Prophet, killing the Death Prophet again. And now this is a great example about how early on in the game, especially, you are just so good at chasing people down. This Invoker, generally fast hero, usually pretty escapable. There's just no way the Invoker's getting out. They also have a little bit of mobility here from Snapfire, even from Earth Spirit, but he's just able to chase heroes down constantly. You know, Earth Spirit with his role is generally a hero you can think about as being, you know, mobile, able to escape. There's just no running away from a Monkey King. Honestly, when you are on the retreat, Monkey King is really, really good. One of the best heroes in the game at running you down. You can see there, you know, the fight just lasted forever. He was able to run heroes down constantly. They got 3 more kills than they otherwise would have if it wasn't for him and his mobility. So those 3 things are kind of great examples of how to play early game. You can see how Crit is such a master of this hero. He was able to kind of AFK a little bit just to be safe, to make sure he wasn't getting ganked. He used his ultimate in like the perfect way to isolate a kill onto the Death Prophet. And then finally, when he turned the fight, or when his heroes on his team, when the Dawnbreaker turned the fight, when it was kind of prolonged and the enemy tried to run away, he was able to chase them down, because that's really an effective way to use Monkey King. It's one of the best things, or one of the things he's best at early on in the game. So that's, I think, the perfect example of how to play Monkey King in the early portion of the game with all those 3 aspects combined. Now, I fast-forwarded a bunch here, and basically for the last, like, 10 minutes or so, he's pretty much been doing everything that I showed you before. He's just been farming a little bit, but then ganking when occasionally it's needed, and helping out his team, casting his ultimate a couple times to isolate kills, chasing people down, etc. But what I wanted to show you here is basically how, although you can use your ultimate to secure an area like Roshan, BKB is so important on this hero. It's obviously important on a lot of heroes, but basically what BKB does for you is it allows you to not use your ultimate to secure an area or to man-fight people. So he probably could have casted his ultimate there, but ideally he would like to save his ultimate probably for the high ground fight that he eventually wants to have in a second here. And so what he does is he just pops his BKB to secure the area, to make sure he's not stunned, and then also to get the Aegis, these kinds of things. And it's kind of what allows you to go in, to stick on a target, to make sure you're not isolated, and then it also allows you to not pop your ultimate, because your ultimate is just so important for isolating areas, for taking high ground, all these kinds of things. I'm not going to show you this full push, because actually he doesn't use his ultimate, and they think they can get away with this kill here. It ends up not working, and then he gets, he just popped and actually ends up dying, which is really bad. So he doesn't really use his ultimate in the way that he probably should have, but it's basically, the concept is, if you can use your BKB instead of your ultimate sometimes, if it's not really an area of the fight that you want to isolate, then it'll help you with saving that, and then taking high ground, these kinds of things. So I just wanted to show you that in the Roche fight as well. So I went to another game here, and this is the last clip I wanted to show you. The other game kind of ended because they had so many scrappy fights. There was no real, like, 5-on-5 fight I wanted to show you, but this is exactly what you want to do with your ultimate late game to secure a fight. Look at how he gets his ultimate basically off on 4 heroes, secures 2 kills, everyone else just has to run away, but by that time the fight is completely over because, you know, whoever they're chasing down, they're running away, they don't have the supports anymore, both of them got blown up, and this is exactly what you want to be doing with your ultimate late game, exactly how you want to be team fighting late game. Obviously, you can play really scrappy fights where you chase people down, all that kind of stuff, but if you ever get the opportunity to get your ultimate off in an AoE around the entire enemy team, or to secure, like Roshan, to secure high ground, these kinds of things, that's exactly how you want to be using your ultimate later. Obviously, I didn't have a great example of using your ultimate to secure high ground, but it's pretty straightforward, pretty simple. You're pushing with Aegis or whatever to just secure the racks. You cast your ultimate. They can't walk in, these kinds of things. But otherwise, this is the perfect example of how do you cast your ultimate later in the game, how to use it to secure team fights in a 5-on-5 engagement. So that's how to play Monkey King. Actually, it's kind of complicated in the sense that you have to know how to use all your skills and these kinds of things, how to, like, you know, have that push-pull in the laning stage. But otherwise, the hero... it's a pretty dynamic and good hero later on into the game. You have your ultimate to secure your kills. You can man up on people. You can chase people down. A very versatile and great hero to play if you can master it. So that's my Monkey King guide. I hope that helps everybody understand the hero and learn the hero in general. As always, guys, like, comment, subscribe, all of those kinds of things. Join the Discord if you haven't already. We usually do replay reviews every Friday, which I get from there. I do my replay reviews on Twitch. We also will be doing community days every Saturday, so you can play with me and other members of the community. So join Discord to take advantage of that. And as always, there is the Patreon available as well if you want to support me in general, you want to see more content like this into the future. There's also coaching available there too. So as always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.